Ok, pues vamos a empezar. Con la ayuda de Dawson y con la ayuda de la gente en Monterrey, déjenme cambio a inglés por si hay alguien.
Zero.
So with the help of Dawson and the Monterrey group, what we did is that we were projecting the interest rates were going to go down. And if interest rates go down, and if you did a loan with a high interest rate, we were afraid that people were going to start refinancing because everybody's going to call them. So if everybody calls them and they refinance before 6 months, obviously you're going to get hit with an early payoff. So we asked Annette to continue just talking to the clients after 1 month that they closed the escrow, to call them and say, hey, just make sure that you don't refinance within the first 6 months. So try to keep the loan for the first 6 months if it's possible. Loans, with the exception of non-QM investment property, but other than those ones, they don't have any prepayment penalty. So FHA, conventional, none of them have prepayment penalty. So if you do a conventional loan and you want to refinance within a month, the client can refinance within a month if he wants to. Obviously, you will get hit with a commission, so as an early payoff. So that's why we needed to be on top of the clients. We also talked to the clients and asked Annette, talk to these clients who had a high interest rate, and just talk to them and say, hey, interest rates have not gone down too much. We will let you know once interest rates goes down and if you want to refinance, but just keep us in mind. If you want to refinance, always call us. So if you want to refinance, call us and we'll be available. I believe that obviously Annette is making the phone calls from Mexico, and I believe that she called yesterday about 800 different clients of Juanita. So they called Juanita the 800 clients, and Juanita was a little bit upset because says, why they're calling my clients and why are they calling my clients, and Simply Mortgage wants to steal the clients. No, not at all. Not at all. When she calls, she gives the office number. Obviously, it's a little bit complicated with Annette sometimes to know who's the loan officer. So whenever they call the office, and Monica will go into the system, she will know who's the loan officer, and it will pass that lead to the loan officer. So don't worry about that. We're not calling to get clients. We're just calling to say, one, eliminate the early payoff, and second, once interest rates drop, keep us in mind. But nothing like that. Nothing like Juanita getting scared that we were stealing the clients.
So I actually I got a call from a client, and they said exactly what you're saying. So she says, hey, you know what, Simply Mortgage called me, and they let me know that it might be a good time to refinance, but to call you, so that's why I'm calling you. So it was pretty cool.
Okay. So that's what we're trying to do. So if you get phone calls from clients, I did get a phone call from one of my clients also yesterday. But just bear in mind that we're doing that. So don't think that we're poaching your clients. We're just we want to eliminate the early payoffs, and obviously when interest rate drop to keep us in mind. Questions?
No, if I may add to that, our clients, they're getting calls from every other lender, not just us. So a bunch of lenders, and it's confusing. And it's confusing when they get calls from other lenders because they say, oh, I see you got your loan with Simply Mortgage. So the client just hears Simply Mortgage. So that's why I think that's what happened with Juanita's clients.
Yeah. So once you close a transaction, title company, on the title records, on the title information, I don't know if you have notices or not on the property profiles, it tells you which lender closed that loan. So other lenders, the competition they're very common to put RE in regards, RE Simply Mortgage. And the client thinks that Simply Mortgage is the one calling them. Insurance companies, they do that a lot also when they want to sell the life insurance, when they want to sell the homestead. They put RE Simply Mortgage. Hey, you're not insured or anything like that, and the client gets very upset with us. Just bear in mind, hey, can you show me what you receive on the mail? They show you if it reads RE Simply Mortgage. It's just a marketing tool that they do. It's not us. Comments? Anything? obviously, so some of you are real estate agents, and some of us are just strictly loan officers. And you know the news about the commissions that that is gonna supposedly kick in on July, if it's not canceled, where the selling agent is not gonna get paid from the seller. So the selling agent has to negotiate that commission with the seller, and they can negotiate in multiple ways. The first thing that came to me when I started talking to real estate agents is that, oh, no problem, so I'm just gonna ask you for closing costs, or I'm just gonna do it this way or that way. So I asked Jorge if he can explain to us from the loan officer side, what are these changes, specifically what are these changes, and if it's gonna have an effect on the loan officer side. The effect that I'm trying to look at if it's gonna affect us or not, is that if they ask the buyer to pay for the commission, but then ask closing costs for the amount of extra amount of closing costs. So FHA is very flexible because you can ask up to 6% of closing costs, but conventional is very strict, only 3%. So if you do it that way, asking for the closing costs, you need to be very aware, one, of the contract. You need to be very aware that we disclose it. So it's a whole involvement that we need to be aware if it gets negotiated that way. But Jorge is going to clarify a little bit better, hopefully, how is probably going to manage the real estate agents.
Good morning everyone. So one of the things that I always like to explain is that there's always a difference between facts and perception. And the reason I say this is because on this commission structure, there's a lot of perception that a lot of agents have and a lot of loan officers. And you see, the bad thing is that the perception, you're getting the perception from people that don't know about real estate. So who are you getting the perception of? Where are you getting the information from? Well, you're getting the information from the TikTokers, the YouTubers, the social media. And these are guys that are really not in the business and they don't understand how real estate works. So the fact of the matter is that really nothing has changed, guys. The only thing that has changed is one thing, that the commission, so the commission from, or the commission to the buyer's agent cannot be disclosed on the MLS. So that's pretty much the only thing that has changed. Now, I know it's going to be funny, but in a way, that's pretty much it. The only thing that has changed from before and after, meaning on July, it would be that the commission that the seller usually pays the buyer's agent cannot be disclosed on the MLS. And that's it. Now, the perception is that the seller, what is one perception that we have, guys? That the seller what? That the seller will not pay for the buyer's agent's commission. That's a perception because it's not true. The seller can actually pay for the other agents, meaning the buyer's agent's commission. So it's not illegal to do that. They can actually pay it. But see, that's a perception that we have, that they're not going to be able to pay it. Yes, they will be able to pay it, except on the MLS, you're not going to be able to disclose it. So if you're not going to be able to disclose it, how would the buyer's agent know if that seller is paying commission? Because see, when you're a buyer's agent and you're going to show properties, what you do, you usually look at the properties, and the first thing that you look at on the MLS is the commission. How am I going to get paid? How much am I going to get paid? Because if they're only paying 1% commission, I'm not even going to show that property. Right? So, moving forward, how would the buyer's agent will know how much is gonna be their commission. Well, they're gonna have kind of like a clause on the MLS, you're not gonna be able to disclose completely, like straight out what the commission would be. But one of the things that you will be able to do is that you're gonna be able to put a special wording saying that your seller, meaning the listing agent, will be able to put on the MLS that the seller is willing to pay a commission. So now that you know that, you as a buyer's agent, now all you have to do is call this listing agent and just ask him, hey, how much will the commission be? And when you send the purchase agreement, you gotta send it with a form that it says that commission. Hey, the seller needs to sign it because I'm gonna get paid the 2.5%, 3%, 2% that you told me on the phone. That would be the only change. So it's gonna be a little bit, I would say a little bit more annoying. It's gonna take you an extra call to talk to the listing agent and ask him what the commission would be. Other than that, guys, nothing's gonna change. Now, when I say nothing's gonna change, it's because, let's say, for example, that the seller doesn't want to pay a commission for the buyer's agent. Well, as far as I know, they never want to pay a commission. Never. It's not like something's going to change. Well, nothing has changed because a seller always wants to list their property at 4%, 3%, 2%. Why? Because they don't want to pay a commission. I mean, straight out, they just don't want to pay a commission. So nothing's going to change because at the end of the day, they don't want to pay a commission. But see, the seller needs and wants one thing. What is the one thing that the seller wants when they sell their property?
The highest value.
The highest value. Hey, how much is the highest price that you can sell it at? Well, we know that in order for me to be able to sell you a property at the highest value, it would be wise if we pay 2%, 2.5%, 3% to a buyer's agent. Why? Because the buyer's agents, they bring a lot of value. This is what the TikTokers don't know because they're not in the business. See, they think that the only thing that the buyer's agents do is just show properties. But they just don't show properties. They actually get the client, motivate a client, qualify the client, deal with a lot of the stuff that you guys know and we know. That we have to fix credits, we have to get the cosigner, we have to get them into a program where they're comfortable with the payment, 0% downs, and all that kind of stuff. Usually the buyer's agents go through that process with the loan officer, right? So there's a lot of value that the buyer's agents bring because they bring a ready, willing, and qualified buyer to be able to purchase that property. And see, we know, the listing agent know, that's why the listing agent always needs a buyer's agent. And the listing agent will convince the seller to pay a commission like he has always done. Nothing has changed. Nothing will change. Now, let me give you another fact. Listing agents this is a perception. So perception. Listing agents will want to sell the properties by themselves. Right? But that's a perception. Why?
Because they can right now.
Well, because they always want to sell the property by themselves. Because if they do, they make 6%. But you know what the fact is? That they can't. They can't. See, listing agents, you tell me how many listing agents double pop their properties? It's a very, very small percentage. Because the listing agents need the buyer's agent. That's why when they go and get the listing, they always ask for 6%. Because if they get 3%, they know that they're not going to be able to sell that property at the price that the seller needs or wants. They need the buyer's agent. So, perception. Oh, the listing agent is going to get the listing at 3%, and they're going to sell it by themselves. That's the perception. Because the fact of the matter is, it's extremely hard, guys. It's extremely hard. Now, perception. Oh, the listing agents will gobble up all the properties. Well, the fact of the matter is that there's not listing agents. The listing agent concept that you have, it doesn't exist. See, the listing agent, it's also a buyer's agent. You can be a listing agent today, but tomorrow, you're a buyer's agent. So there's no listing agents. There's only one out of 2,000 agents that are really, really, really listing agents. See, a listing agent is someone that doesn't work with buyers. And that doesn't have a team that works with buyers. It's someone that says, I'm going to list properties, I don't want to deal with buyers. But see, a listing agent, if there's one that exists in every 2,000, they're not going to do open houses. They don't do open houses. The real listing agent doesn't do open houses. The real listing agent doesn't work on weekends. That's why they get their listing at 6%, because they let the buyer's agent do all the work. They get paid a commission and that's it. So they're not going to take the listing at 3%. And the fact is that there's no listing agents, guys. There's no listing agents. You can call a listing agent right now, and tomorrow he's going to call you on a listing that you have, because that's a fact. So when you say, oh man, the listing agents, a lot of them are going to be assholes. No, they're not. Why? Because the day after, they're going to be a buyer's agent. So I think it's very, very important, guys, that you understand the fact versus the perception, because the information and the perception that a lot of the agents are getting, it's coming from people that don't know a lot about the business. These are guys that are TikTokers. They're just like, they just want to give you the news because they think that they're updated. They want to see what's up. I mean, if you see the social media right now, you hardly see a TikToker talking about the commission structures anymore. Right? You don't see them anymore. Oh, but when the news came out, oh my God, everyone was an expert. But I saw the social media and almost no one really, really understood what it is. Because at the end of the day, guys, the commissions has always been negotiable. From the buyer, the seller, how much are you going to pay? So at the end of the day, nothing has changed. So when you take a listing, everyone that is taking a listing from the office, I'm calling them and asking them, hey, are you having any challenges taking your listings? No, they didn't even ask me. Oh yeah, someone asked me, but when I explained it, and I said, listen, I can take your listing at 3%, but you're not going to get $550,000 in Palmdale.
Or not activity at all.
But if we pay a buyer's agent 3%, then there's a very good chance that I can get you $550 or maybe more. Okay, let's pay the 6%. Let's pay the 3%. So that's the way it works, guys. So any questions, guys? Any comments? Questions, comments? Well, that's it, guys. So that's really the truth of the matter. So going back to what Oscar was saying. So what Oscar was saying is like, hey, now they're going to go with our commissions as a loan officer. Oh, now I don't think that's gonna happen, guys. I don't think that's gonna be an issue. Of course, we would have to wait, but I just don't see anything changing. The listing agent will come into the buyer, to the seller, and he's still gonna ask for the 6%. Now, he will have to disclose to the seller, where is this commission going? Okay, well, 3% is going to my office, and the other 3% is going to the other office. And that's it. As long as you disclose it, on the disclosure that you give to the seller, you're gonna be okay. Okay? So I just don't see nothing changing, to be honest with you. Other than you have to kind of like fight. You're gonna have to fight the objection once the seller asks you and tells you. Because the seller is gonna tell you like, hey, I've heard that now I'm not obligated to pay a commission to the buyer's agent. Well, you've never been obligated. Never. So nothing changed. You could have paid whatever you wanted. You could have paid 1%, 2, 3, 4, 5%. So you're not obligated. The reason why we ask for 6% is because it gives you a better probability of selling your price at the highest price. I mean, if you don't understand that, I don't know how else to put it. So meaning that if you pay 6%, you will get a higher price on your property. And one of the things that I always use with the seller, it's saying this. Okay, let me put it this way. You want to save $15,000 on commissions, but you will lose approximately $40,000 on your price. So you choose whatever you want to do. And this is kind of like a closing that I've used in the past, and it has always worked. And I think this is the type of closings, and this is the type of objections that you will kind of like have to talk to a seller. But I just want to be clear, guys, these are the objections that we always have dealt with. It's not like, oh, I'm going to deal, maybe you're going to deal a little bit more in July, August, maybe. But believe me, people will forget, guys, because at the end of the day, everyone wants the same thing. And what we want is to get the highest price for that seller. Okay? So questions, guys, comments? Okay, I'll give it back to Oscar.
Thank you, Jorge. Just like a side note, and most of you, with the exception of Dawson, he's the young one, but most of you are old. So for those of you who remember, the loan application, even before my time, it was 1 page. Before my time, but when I started in the business, which it was 20 years ago, the loan application was 4 pages. I believe it was 3, and it went to 4 pages. And then for 4 pages, it went to 11 pages. And when it went to 11 pages, it was the end of the world. It was the end of the world. Oh, it's going to 11 pages in your system. Have you updated your system? Have you updated this? If you don't have 11 pages, you're not going to be able to do loans, X, Y, Z. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Then for 11 pages, I think right now is 13 pages. Nobody even noticed that it went to 13 pages or 14 pages. Nobody even noticed. They changed the rules of thread. So they changed the rules of thread because you were able just to have just between brokers and wholesale lenders, you were able to charge whatever you want to, and if it was rebate, you don't have to disclose. Then it changed, and now you had a compensation. And the compensation, you need to meet that compensation, and you need to disclose that compensation. And it was going to be the end of the world. Nothing happened, guys. Nothing happened. Everybody continued doing business as usual. So I'm hoping that this change is going to be business as usual. But just keep in mind, the original news is that, probably the buyer is going to pay for the commission. So the buyer is going to pay for the buyer's agent commission. Just keep in mind that every now and then you may run into that situation. If you run into that situation, be careful of how much of the closing costs can be afforded, how much they're gonna be and everything, so you can disclose everything. But I really doubt that we will have that situation. Questions, comments? No? We're running into a problem, we have mentioned it a lot. The conventional loans is going more into the direction as the condominiums being approved, the same way as VA and the same way as FHA. If the condominium is not approved by Fannie Mae, if it's not approved and it has nothing that is approved, then we as lenders have to approve it. Have to go to Fannie Mae and submit the documentation and approve it. But there's a lot of condominiums also that definitely they just not approved. If it shows on the internet that it's not approved, then you cannot do a loan there. And mostly, I mean, in conversations with Phil, it's a little bit frustrating for Phil, because Phil is saying, we always have to check the insurance, the master insurance for the condominium complex. But in a way, and he just blatantly says it this way, we never pay attention. None of the other writers pay attention that much. We only pay attention to a couple of things, and we just went for it. Now, the insurance of the condominium, it has to be, everybody's paying attention to them, and now they're going by the strict guidelines, and if it's not enough coverage, Fannie Mae is not going to approve it, and you cannot do a loan, a conventional loan there. So it's very critical that once a client is looking for a condominium, that you share that condominium name to either Phil or Sarah, that you send an email. But that email, it has to be the same way with FHA. It has to be the name of the complex. So if you can get 3 things for Phil, 3 things, to see which one is, if you send the address, it's not going to be sufficient. You need to send the name of the complex. So for example, Pacoma Villas. So you need to, the name of the complex. If you can send also the name of the association and the address. If you can send those 3 things, and Phil will check for you. In a way, I went to the internet. I mean, obviously being kind of like a Pulido and Angelo, I said, well, why can I check on it? And I noticed that it was a free internet site that you can check on it. And actually you can go in there and you can check with your user and password as long as the administrator gives you access. The only problem that when we check in that specific internet site, when we check, is you can also submit documentation to get the condo approved. So we took the decision as a company that if you want to know if a condominium is approved or not, send an email to Phil. If you need it for a Saturday or something, which has happened, Sarah is always traveling with her computer. Sarah can also help you with it. So Sarah and Phil are the only ones who have access to that site, and they're the ones that they can help you. Questions, comments? There's a lot of condominiums that are not approved. If you want a list of condominiums that are approved, just ask Sarah, and Sarah will send you a list. I keep telling you on the trainings, I'm busy as hell. Believe me, I'm not doing anything different. I'm just being here, I'm just being available, and I'm getting a ton of leads. Ton of leads. Some of them are very frustrating because it's just the clients that they're, they're just out of their minds. We want to qualify for a house making $5,000 a year, but that doesn't. My frustrating part is I'd rather deal with those clients than I'd rather not do anything. So I'd rather just talk to them. I'm even using the help of Pulido. I'm using the help of, this weekend I asked the help of Luis Mariscal, because the agents are calling me and they're providing a bunch of leads. So I believe from the start, the reason that you get leads is because you're always active and you're always on the office, you're always available. Okay, any questions, any comments? Thank you so much. This Thursday we have training from Pulido. We will provide the subject by tomorrow.
Okay.